about happiness tonight. And, you know, in the last couple of classes, we talked a little bit about choices, right? So the first night we are making choices to not stress, because we learned about what happens to us when we go into that fight or flight, right? And then with the next class, we learned about energy and identifying that our unresolved emotions are things that we have, and we're going to keep experiencing them until we make the choice to resolve them so that we can pull out that thorn, right, that emotional thorn that we have, and move on. And then we decided we were going to detach from drama, right? We made the choice that we were going to not get caught up in other people's drama. We were going to detach. We were going to remain positive, be careful about how we're talking to ourselves. These are all choices that we're making. And then, of course, last week we talked about emotions a lot more in depth, learning how we can make the choice to identify them first, that whole awareness, making sure that we first feel ourselves in that moment and pause so that we can respond appropriately, right? Because we don't want to just react anymore. We want to be able to not, you know, respond inappropriately, but appropriately. Yeah? But these are all choices. And like I say, when, you know, you get awareness of yourself and awareness that you can detach from these things, that you're just that pure consciousness inside of you, you can pause and make a different choice. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So, what about happiness? So happiness is a choice, not a result. Nothing's going to make you happy until you choose to be happy, right? You can have a perfect life and still not be happy. Is that fair to say? Mm-hmm. And then be somebody who makes you happy, not seeking it from outside, but seeking it from inside, right? Making sure that you get to your authentic space. You know who you really are. You're not playing a role anymore. You're you. You play the role, but you realize it's just you playing a role. It's not really you. It's not who you are. You know, you're somebody at work. You go home, you're somebody's parent, somebody's wife or husband. But it's not who you are. And we learned, you know, that we don't want to always be so susceptible to other people's beliefs, right? We want to be able to weed through those and make sure we understand what is really truly our beliefs and where our boundaries really are, whether it's, you know, from the psychological boundaries that we are always defending now, right? Make sure we know where those are. And you're going to hear this repeated a lot, but if you say it 7 times, sometimes people will start to remember it, so. Okay. So, we get to that authentic place and we can find our happy place, right? So if we start making some decisions and choices that we want to be happy, then that's going to lead to better places for you, right? Okay. So, positive attitude. This is another choice. I got a picture of me. Has anybody climbed Mission Peak? It's up there in Fremont. It's a long haul.
No, we wanted to go from last 1 year, but not taking time.
Yeah.
It's early morning actually with the sun. We can't go there.
Yeah, I would wait till it gets cooler unless you're going in the morning now. But you know, I was trying to prep for this. My husband and I live down, you know, in the southern part of San Jose. We were climbing this one hill up to a park, trying to get me ready for this, but he used to run it and up and down. After I did it, I can't imagine how he did it, and he was running it with a gentleman that was his father's best friend, so he's like in his 70s. The two of them would run up and down in like an hour and a half. So, he knew that I wanted to get in shape, and, I wanted to, this was a goal of mine to climb this thing. So, we're with another couple, and we're starting up this hill. And, I tell my friend Joyce, the other guy's wife, I said, I'm not a speed demon. I'll get there, but I'm not going to be fast. So if you feel like I'm going too slow and you want to walk with them, I know my husband walks fast, so you can keep up with them. So all the way up, they would get ahead and they'd wait for me, and I'd catch up and they'd take right off. So it's like, well, wait a minute, you got a break. I didn't, right? So okay, I'll keep going, slow and steady, slow and steady. So we get up to the top. I finally make it, right? I mean, we all made it together. They didn't have to wait too much for me, but, we're looking through at the very top, there's like a little totem pole, but it's not really a totem pole. It's got like pipes that you can look through, and it points out different landmarks from up there, right? Well, the line was really long, so I didn't get a picture of that, but I did get a picture of me next to it. So, my girlfriend and I were standing up there, and we're, chatting and looking at all the different views, and the guys head down in front of us. And so we take a few pictures, and we decide we're going to walk down. We catch up with them, and I'm like, all right, John, I made it, high five, right? So he high fives me, and he goes, I didn't think you were going to do it. I said, really? He goes, yeah, I thought for sure you would stop. Probably I would have done this in the past. You would have stopped somewhere along the line where the benches are and said, go without me and pick me up on the way down. Right? Like, well, I don't know if you realize this or not, but I'm not really the same person anymore. Now I've shifted. I know anything is possible. Might take me a while, but I know I can do it. And that can be for anything, but, walking up the hill. I mean, it's like a 45-degree angle in most of it. So it's a climb. I think we did it in 3 hours or something like that, stopping at the top. So I wasn't a speed demon, but, I did make it. So, I felt like, I could do anything right now, especially since I did this. So if you can carry your positive attitude forward and think of yourself as having infinite possibilities and infinite paths to your end game, so to speak, a goal, do you think that will make you happier? Last week we talked about vibrational qualities of the emotions. When people are positive, you can feel it, right? And it's still contagious, infectious, however you want to describe that, but you definitely feel it when people have more positive attitudes. And you always feel better when you have a positive attitude, don't you? Okay. All right, so experiencing the past. So moving on doesn't mean that you forget about these things. It means that you've accepted what's happened. And now you can continue on with your life. So, we talked a little bit about my family dynamics and, the fact that some of my siblings are still caught in these patterns from childhood, and some of us aren't, and I'd like to think that I've moved past a lot of that stuff. But, when you're reliving that stuff and you're living in the past, who is feeling all those emotions from it?
Your present self.
Yourself, right? Even if you're mad at somebody else, I think you said you had journaled a little bit to get some stuff out. Even when you're experiencing, an emotion towards somebody, do you think they feel it? Do they even know that you're going through that? Maybe on a subatomic level from a vibrational standpoint, but probably not, right? Unless they're in the room with you and you're telling them, they probably don't know it. So really the only person that you're you're hindering, if you're not getting past it, is who? Yourself, right? Okay. So, can't reach for anything new if your hands are full of yesterday's junk. And we talked a little bit about how memories are physical manifestations in your body, and if you do let them go, you don't have to forget it, but you get rid of that emotional sensitivity that's stored with it. You can still have the memory and then not have the thorns there anymore and go, oh, yeah, I'm good now. Okay, I can remember it. Yeah, I know it was what it was, but now I'm okay. And there are far better things ahead than we leave behind, especially if we go forward with the positive attitude. We make the choice to make ourselves happy, be positive. But we have to make the choice first to get over the past. Stop reliving it. Stop enumerating on it, or ruminating is not what I meant, ruminating on it. Get those unresolved emotions out. Make room for better ones. So I love this one. Victim card. Get out of responsibility free. So when we are moving on from the past, we can't do it unless we take responsibility for our own emotions, right? And every time, if we want to remember the past and we're feeling like a victim in that scenario, we talked about the law of attraction. So if you're playing a victim, what are you trying to attract?
More situations to become.
I'm sorry?
More situations to become victim.
Or somebody to victimize you, right? So think about that. If we take responsibility for every time that we feel like a victim, knowing where they're attracting it, gives you a whole complete different perspective on things, doesn't it? You no longer feel like you have no control over it. That was kind of an aha moment for me with victimhood. Oh, you mean I'm actually asking somebody to play this scenario out for me? Oh, I'm going to stop asking for that.
And what did you do to stop asking for that? Like what?
Stop playing the victim.
Oh.
Stop, feeling like, oh, woe is me, recanting the story to other people like, oh, look at what somebody did to me. Oh, right? I don't do that anymore. It's like, okay, it happened. Move on. It's good. That's what I say to myself, of course. I did tell you the story of my mother blaming my father for her financial situation 30 years after they'd even broken up. She needed to take responsibility and ownership so that she could recognize where her own faults are and move past it. Fix it and move past it, hopefully. But if you don't take responsibility for it, what are you going to keep doing? Playing that scenario over again until we learn it. The one thing that we're here in this life is to learn lessons. If we don't get the lesson, that story's going to come back around until we get it. And part of, victims are going to keep asking for victimizers. But that gives you a different perspective on it, right? You can't be a victim. You own it. You can't let yourself off the hook. Well, you can, but you'll keep reviewing that same scenario. So, and I like this one quote from Naomi Judd, actually came up with this one. It says, you only get to be a victim once. After that, you're a volunteer. I think that's very appropriate. Okay, so forgive yourself, forgive others, and try to figure out what emotional charge it has, and then just accept it. Really, I mean, that's part of moving on, is accepting it. Yes, it happened, but I'm okay now. It was in the past. I don't have to relive it. I'm good now. Does that make sense? Okay. So if we can move on, we'll feel a little happier, right? Okay. Now we just talked a little bit about this, accepting things, right? But we also have to be very careful about how we talk to ourselves. Accepting ourselves for who we are and being okay with us the way we are is a big thing about acceptance. I mean, if you're truly not okay with it, maybe it's some guilt or some shame or something that, may come across in thinking about trying to accept yourself. But remember that you have to forgive yourself for it. And remember that guilt is that gap from where we acted and where we knew where we should have come from. And then just remember, you would do better now, and you can forgive yourself. I love that picture. You got to really begin to have a lot of self-love. And I know we talk worse to ourselves internally than we do to anybody. But we have the choice, again, there's that word, to stop doing that. Every time you hear yourself making a comment about how, your hair doesn't look good, or I'm trying to think of the things that I criticized myself for, like my weight, or, I shouldn't have said that, or whatever. But, catch yourself. Again, it's that split second of awareness and going, why am I talking to myself like this? I'm a good person. I love who I am. And if you don't love who you are, figure out why and just start acting the way you would love